Diadiv. Hi, it's Misha Áine Tyrrell. My name's Áine Tyrrell. If you don't know me and you're just listening to this live because someone told you to, I am an Irish singer-songwriter who's here living in so-called Australia for a decade. And I have some shit to get off my chest this morning. And me and my team, I was in the middle of writing an open letter for the past 2 weeks about some stuff that's gone down. And every time I try to get it into a letter, it just doesn't, I don't know. It doesn't express everything. I was like, I need a thesis for this or a doctorate. So I had to think of a different way to express it. And after being with my sis Emily Uramara this past week and her speaking out about some stuff, it just her and I have been on the phone. I'm like, nah, it's time to talk about this stuff. And I think a live is the best format for it. And you can share it in whatever way you want to share it, or you can ignore it. But an open letter just didn't work, right? So in the past year, my team has grown to have a booking agent, a publicist, and management. And that's what you do when you're growing, right? And I love them all dearly. We work together incredibly. But what happens is that they now represent me, and they also get feedback from places. And a lot of these things people would never say to an artist, but they'll say to their team. And in some of this feedback, I've felt it implicitly for years here. I felt it, and sometimes it's been said explicitly to me. But the feedback coming back, when I hear it through their lens, and they're like, have you heard this before? This is actually really disturbing. And when you have somebody else tell you that's not quite right, you're like, I know, I've been feeling that was icky for so long. And it takes sometimes somebody outside of yourself to also say, yeah, that is icky. So in the past few weeks, a bunch of things have piled onto each other to make me feel like, what the fuck is going on here? And the thing I suppose that prompted this the most was that a very well-known festival came back with a reason why I wasn't getting booked, and it was because they had booked an Irish act already for this year. Now, I've heard this a lot, so it's nothing new, but in speaking with my team about it, they're like, what does that even mean? They were like, what does that mean, you've booked an Irish act? Because it turns out Ireland, we're a really diverse country, and we have music all the way from punk to classical and everything in between. We punch above our weight all over the world with our diaspora and with our musicians that are constantly touring. We're a country of only 4 million people, and we have bands like U2, Sinead O'Connor, just look into our back catalogue, the Cranberries, whatever. Rory Gallagher, we have musicians in every genre, so you can't really define us as a genre. And to me, when someone says, we already have an Irish act, that means that is a genre. And my booking agent said to me, so that means other artists at your level, they might be competing, I'm not getting a headline spot on a bill, right? But I might be getting the next one down or a couple down. And he's like, so you're competing for one slot on a bill, Áine, over here, one tokenistic slot at that. And these other artists are getting an opportunity to have 30 slots perhaps. Now I'm already up against it, right? I'm already up against those 30 slots and not even with the tokenist. I'm up against it because I'm a woman, because I'm 40, because I don't dress the part or look the part of whatever the hell that they want me to look like. So I'm already up against it straight away. But then when you tell me that an Irish act is a genre, that is dismissing an entire country of people. And it's saying that my culture that we come from can be boxed or uniformed into one experience on your festival stage. And I've never I've never walked into an Irish act and thought, oh, that's exactly like that other person. You know, we're so different, and there's so very few festivals here in so-called Australia that look at us in any way different like that. They look at us as a tokenistic Irish act that fits into their box. Now, it would be different if I played like traditional Irish music and you already have a traditional Irish music band. Okay, fair enough. But that's not what I am. I am Irish. Like my beautiful friend Jen Clower said to me the other day when I was chatting to her about this, she was like, Áine, you're Irish as fuck, but you're not Irish folk. And yes, I can play folk music. I've grown up with it. It's my whole like childhood experience. I was traveling with my dad, touring with my dad. He is a folk artist. That's exactly what he is, and he loves it. And I am a modern version of a woman in 2022 who is an Irish woman, but who also engages in the land where I'm on. And this land, so-called Australia, and the many lands of people that were the original owners of this land. I am actually Australian. I am an Australian citizen. So also when you say to me that we already have an Irish Act, you are denying any immigrant's experience to this country. And I just have to look like at the ARIAs or at whatever. I don't see me reflected anywhere. I see me as a woman reflected, but I don't see me reflected as an immigrant. And I'm looking at all immigrant cultures. I'm not just saying Irish people. We do have it the easiest here because we're white. And I know that my immigration process here was 1,000,000 times easier than anyone else's with brown skin or English as a second language. I had it so easy to get into this country. And when I arrived here, everyone was like, you're Australian, just like the rest of us. But I am not. I am not seen as Australian, because when I go to apply for a festival or a job or anything in my workplace, I'm considered an Irish act. And I'm proud of it. I never say that I'm not Irish. I have an accent. My name looks Irish. I don't hide who I am, and I'm not pretending to be Australian. But I actually am. Like my passport. I have two passports from two different countries. I have citizenship in both countries. I vote in your country. I work very hard to engage with what I believe to be the most sacred and beautiful connections in this country, which is all the Indigenous artists and mob that I've ever engaged with. I've traveled to more corners of your country than most people who were born here. I have done my time in getting to know the zeitgeist of this country as well. I haven't just come here and been like, hey, I'm Irish, I'm going to stick with all my Irish people and not hang out with anyone from here. So yeah, I'm pretty exhausted. And it's not only exhausted of having to try to fight my corner or back my corner as hey, can't I just be seen as a musician? At the end of the day, I get onto your festival stage and I bring people together and I connect them with music. I speak into some of their heritage, which 30% of this country has Irish heritage. Can I not just be seen as a musician that connects people and stands on stage, you know? And I know my sis Emily, who's on here, we have this chat all the time because she too and so many Indigenous artists get smushed into that same little tiny box of what is expected of them when they get on stage. I can't tell you how many times I've been told, can you just play the tin whistle this set? Can you sing in Irish? Can you sing a rebel song? Can you, I'm told, hey, can you bring your little bit of a tokenistic monkey thing to this so that we can connect in? And don't get me started about the world music stages that I get put on with Indigenous people. I'm like, okay, I can be on the world music stage because I'm Irish, but why are you mob here? You're from here. What are you doing on a world music stage? And all these white Australian artists are the ones that are there. They're the freaking immigrants. Put them on the world music stage and get the Indigenous people on those main stages. It's their fucking land. And I get put onto this little world music stage with them, or I get put onto Harmony Day lineups, and I get asked if I could play St. Patrick's Day every day of the year, I'd be a rich fucking woman. I would be balling, right? 7 years ago, after a disgusting 3 gigs in a row of St. Patrick's Day events in Melbourne, in Arm, I said never again. I had people get up on stage and dressed as leprechauns and tried to shove their face into my boobs. I had people shouting out for inappropriate songs. I just felt I'm there to sell Guinness and to give everyone this, like, you know, they can paint shamrocks on their face and wear a little like leprechaun hat, and they all get drunk, and like literally there's pictures in the paper the next day being like, oh, look what happened outside of the Elephant and Castle in Geelong, and there's like 50 people lying on the street wearing like the Irish flag, and I'm like, oh my God, this is shame. Like, this is shame. And when you ask me to go to your festivals and sing and play in the Guinness tent to sell you more Guinness, again, this is shame. My country, we have intergenerational trauma and post-traumatic stress that actually makes us an alcoholic country, right? And then across the fucking world, you're putting us on Guinness tent stages, and you are making us get up and sell your green-colored beer in your green-dyed rivers, and asking us to like celebrate St. Patrick, who we shouldn't even be fucking celebrating because he's English, right? And he came in and took paganism away from Ireland and took us away from our deep, authentic indigenous culture. So like, that's a whole nother story. But like, then you're putting us on these stages and expecting us, like, that I'm getting booked as to whether how many Guinnesses I can sell on these stages. That's what I'm getting booked for. Can you get them all riled up with your tin whistle, get a band and whatever? That's because I want them up dancing and they want them selling Guinness, right? This is a response. Like, the drinking Irish culture is a response to our trauma. And then years later, you're asking us to get up on stage and resell that trauma to you in a way that you feel better about drinking. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. And so is the tokenism of Harmony Days and asking me to play for St. Patrick's Day. I had a really well-known venue. They're lovely people. Listen, I'm not going to name and shame the festivals, and I'm not going to name and shame these venues. What I would like you to do is share this yarn when I'm done. And I would like these people to hear this, because I think there's just a fucking blind spot where you actually don't even know what you're doing. You don't know what you're doing. And it'll be fine, but it affects my career. It affects my life. And there's so many Irish people all around the world. This isn't just in Australia. This happens in America to the nth degree. I remember festivals with my dad and him up against this when I was only this big. And I was saying to him, oh, this is a wish I was greener festival. That's what we started to call them. These festivals where they just put on this weird, I have played festivals in this country that have potato throwing competitions. Okay? We had a famine. We had a famine from potatoes. We have trauma from that shit. What are you doing? Potato throwing competitions. And I tell you, it's happening this year. This isn't a year ago. This isn't 20 years ago. This is happening this year. I've played festivals where they have throw the leprechaun off the dunk thing where you gotta like throw. What is this? Like, actually, what is it? It's not okay. And if we don't actually look at these blind spots and say something about them, then we are just part of that. And I know there's a lot of Irish people all around the world who are making a lot of money off of this. And you know what? I get it. I could have gone down that path. I could have. There was a crossroad in my career where I decided, do I want to play trad music and play into this because this is profitable, or do I actually want to be my authentic self and be happy with the art I put out in the world? And I chose this path, okay? And I have no problem with other people who've chosen another path and who play on those stages and who play those festivals. I understand you're trying to make money and you're trying to make a living off what you hold dearly, which is your music and your culture. What is not being held dearly is how these festivals, these promoters, these booze companies, it's what they're doing to your culture. There's so much. And I had this because this is festivals, this is venues, and this is promoters. And this is the wider conversation also of what is Australian music. It's Australian Music T-shirt Day, right? I got mine, Emily Wuramara. But what is Australian music? Like, actually, what is it? And as well as folk music. What is folk music? I think this conversation, you know, I my hands are washed. I'm done with the folk music festivals. I hate the box that you keep putting me in, and I'm not going to be applying for your festivals because this is the feedback I get. I'm not wanted there. I don't fit into your tiny version of what that is, and so I'm going to go find musicians, musics, and audiences that actually see me for just being a musician, and I'm going to find them and I'm going to play there. And I'm having this yarn today because I'm about to have a big meeting with my team for planning for 2023, and I'm done with all this stuff. I'm done with the venues who, like, I had this really well-meaning venue. They're lovely. I love them. I love their audiences. They're beautiful, right? They don't even know the blind spot they have. So they've been asking me to come back and play. I've played it twice. And I played it once on a St. Patrick's Day. And they've been asking me to come back and play. And every time they ask me over the past few years, they've asked me to play in March because it's a once a month type thing. And I was like, yeah, I'll do anything but that. The only way I will play St. Patrick's Day is my own actual shows. And that's if I can rewrite the story of St. Patrick. Anything else, I'm not partaking in. So I've said no to them countless occasions. They did get in touch with my booking agent and my team to ask would I play in the coming year. Now this was back in February. And so my booking agent said any month in 2023 and into 2022 and into 2023. So we gave them like 24 months to play with, right? They came back and asked for March, St. Patrick's Day 2023, and he came back to me and said, what do you want to do? I said, you tell them any other month. There are 22, because I won't do the other March in 2024 either. 22 months to choose from. Line went cold and they never came back with anything. They want me to play because they want to sell Guinness, Irish stew, and they want to make it a big cultural evening. Now, if that is done authentically, and I have had experiences that have felt authentic, I feel it and I know it, and I'm okay to do it, and I will take part in it. If it is done like that, that's disgusting and it makes me want to vomit. And I'm just like, that's the same as a potato throwing competition. I'm done. I'm out. So I won't play that venue now, and nor will I play the festival that told me that I'm another Irish act, and they've already got an Irish act. You know, my publicist here, he's incredible. He also works with a beautiful friend of mine, Wallace Bird. She released an album all over the world this year. Incredible, critical acclaim everywhere. She plays and lives in Germany. She plays and tours in England, in Ireland. She's a queen, right? And I was talking to my publicist about it, and he said, I've just had such a hard time because it's an incredible album. Anyone that knows it, you know. And it should just be seen as incredible music. And they've tried to pitch it and play it all over the place here. It should just be seen as music. But he can't get her out of the Irish box. They're just like, oh, it's not really Irish music. Well, it is. She's Irish and she's making music. So it is. And I've had this as well. Like when I started here, my other publicist, not this one, told me I was too niche. I would never make it over here. And I'm paying her, by the way. Like I was too niche and I would never make it over here. And I was like, well, isn't niche good? Like you don't have someone like me from what I see, from what I'm watching, right? From what I'm watching of your music scene, I don't see me reflected in loads of different ways, not just my Irishness. There's loads of versions of me I didn't see reflected. So isn't that good? Like, don't you want other, like, you don't just want the same surfy, white Irish guy that plays a stomp board and the didgeridoo. Like, we've got a load of them. They're really good. I love you all. If you're listening to this, you're amazing. Don't stop what you're doing. But there's loads of you. There's hundreds of you. Like, don't you want something different? You know? And I've been told to change my name. And I'm not the only person. I've been told this week about 2 other friends of mine that are Australian born, whose parents have ethnic surnames. And they're not even the ethnic that like you're going to. I'm just talking like fucking a name that isn't Smith or Mitchell or I don't know. And they've been told that they need to change their surname to make it more palatable. And I know people that have. Bob Dylan is one. What's his real name? Someone write it there. I can't remember. It's a Jewish name. Bob Dylan changed his name to fit into that Anglo version of what like will sell. So I've been told every single time, change your name. Make it more Enya, for example. Enya, you all know her. We love her. Fucking Enya Queen. Her name is Ethna. Eithne. She had to change it to Enya to be able to make it. So I was told, do what Enya did. Change your name over here. You'll make it. I was like, fuck that. My name is my grandmother's name. It was passed down to me. It means Queen of the Fairies. It's a beautiful, gorgeous, gorgeous name. Why can't I have my name? Why? Just because your tongue can't wrap around it. Just because every time I fill in a form in this country, I can't fill it in because I have my father, my accent over my name, right? Áine, it has an accent. Without the accent, it's Áine. It doesn't mean anything. And it doesn't mean what my heritage is. My accent means something. Every single time I go to do anything in this country that requires an online application or an online thing, I'm talking Medicares, I'm talking like just a form for my kids to be allowed to go to on a school camp. I'm told that is no foreign characters allowed. That's what the note comes up to me. No foreign characters allowed. Then that's because I put the accent on my name. So I have to consistently put my name in a box. Consistently. Without my actual name being pronounced. That's a little bit of a side note, you know. But that's what I've had. I've had a million different spellings, a million different people come up and be like, oh, it's just like good on ya. I'm like, is that the first time you think I've ever heard that in this country? No, it's not good on ya. It's actually Áine. And it actually has a very deep cultural meaning. And if you would like to know that, talk to me about that. Don't just get on here and come up with some fucking Australian joke about my name every single time I get on stage. Another time I had somebody introduce me on stage as Áine Tyrrell from Ireland, and let's just hope she hasn't put some bombs under your cars before she got here. I had to get on stage after someone said that fucking shit. An MC said that at a festival. Honestly, do you know what that even means? Like, do you know the people that have died from that on both sides of the Troubles? Do you know what that means when you say that to someone who's just trying to get up there and play music? Like, this is 10 years of this bullshit, and I'm done, you know. I'm done with trying to put myself into a box. I'm done with like trying to say why I won't play St. Patrick's Day. I'm done with trying to even like when someone sends me something, they're like, oh, are you playing at this Irish festival? And I'm like, fucking no. They're throwing potatoes as a competition. I'm not. And there's like a Guinness drinking competition. I'm not. That is not my culture. We are such an incredible, beautiful, deep pagan culture. It is so beautiful. And every time you ask me to do this surface level leprechaun St. Patrick's green beer shit, you are so ignorant to what actually existed in Ireland pre-colonization. And I am part of thousands, if not million people who are trying to reclaim our language. We are trying to use our art in ways that honors those deep pagan traditional ways that were destroyed. We are trying to get our language back that was illegal. Our customs weren't allowed. Our culture was taken away. Manuscripts are written, and our history was written by either monks or the colonizers, or then we had the Catholic Church come in and fucking decimate us, take our babies away, have hurt our women for generations. Like, the sexual abuse that has gone on in our country is fucking outrageous. So when you come to me and say, hey, we already have an Irish Act, it actually hurts. Like, I'm getting emotional because, like, it hurts a deep cellular part of me that you have no idea about. And that is tokenism at its absolute highest, and even racism and ignorance. And I'm just like, I'm at a stage where I'm not playing those festivals, and I'm not going to name and shame you. You know who you are. And even if you don't think that you've done this to me, 98% of the festivals and venues in this country have done this to me in one way or another. And you have limited my career so massively. You have limited my self-worth. That's the worst, is because I sit here, I don't like to compare ever, and I sit here and I'm like, why? Like, I have amazing connections with my audiences. I give them an amazing show. I walk away from a show, and this affects radios that won't promote me because they're like, oh, she's just an Irish act coming through. This affects venues that don't know how to sell me when they're saying, oh, I sat in Hobart the other night and I listened to the lady on the door. They're like, oh, it's a $30 cover charge. There's a musician. And my green room was right next to it. And the lady on the door, oh, she's an Irish singer. She's an Irish singer. She's an Irish singer. That's lovely. But if I wasn't Irish, what else would you have been able to say about me? Do you know what I mean? Like, what else could you have done? Sorry, hold on. The parcel's coming. Thank you. Cheers. My daughter's Deb's dress. Or what is it? Formal. See, I'm Australian enough that my daughter's going to a formal. Can't I be Australian enough for your gig? Oh, but it has. And what else could she have said about me that would have sold me so more people came in? I don't know. And if I was an Indigenous person up there, would she have said, oh, it's an Indigenous act, it's an Indigenous act, it's an Indigenous act? And then what? How many people would have walked out of that venue? Like, there's other ways to describe us. There's other ways to sell my music. And that's what me and my team are meeting about today, because I'm not applying to your folk festivals. I'm not applying to your venues that only want to book me on a St. Patrick's Day. I'm not applying to any of those spaces anymore. And for so long, I've took it as self-worth. And then I've also done the, if I build it, they will come. I know my shows are good. I know my shows are fucking good. And so I did the whole, if I build it, they will come. But when I'm actually being, like, blocked by the industry on so many levels, when you're saying, you're an Irish act, we already have one. We don't know how to sell you. You're too niche. Can you just play the tin whistle and make us dance like monkeys? Like, when you say that shit, you are blocking every opportunity I've had to make music in this country. And when I go home to Ireland to play music, I'm a musician. That's it. And Emily and I were at the Folk Alliance conference in New Orleans, and I'll never go back to that conference either, because it was the same. Like, Emily and I were both told, can you guys sing in language in every set, and Áine, play your tin whistle, because that's what we're selling you as. And I was like, yeah, I get it. Like, you have to figure out how you're marketable, right? But when you're told that you have to, that's disgusting. That's like absolutely disgusting. And it takes away from the cultures that we engage with. And the other thing that happens with my sis Emily here is that I get asked a lot to do collaborations, and that's not just with Emily, that's with lots of other mob that I've worked with in this country. And this really upsets me, because I get asked, like, hey, can you two, like, this happened this week as well. Like, it's just been a shit ton of stuff that's happened this week. We got asked to do this festival during COVID together, a conversation on music and colonization and the places where we cross over. This happened on another lineup with Barca and I. This has happened with my beautiful friend Auntie Delta on other festivals here on Bundjalung country. So this has happened so many times to me. They're like, we really want this cultural exchange. That's what they're saying, right? They're like, we love this little cultural exchange between the two of you, right? So then they go to book this thing. And for one reason or another, Emily or I, you know, in this example, Emily couldn't do the rescheduled date that they had. So then this happened with another very well-known festival. Emily couldn't do a rescheduled date. We had a fee of 3,000. They dropped my fee to 750 when they heard that they couldn't have their cultural exchange. They moved me off the main stage and they put me on the side stage. And I said that. I was like, no. And I've not applied for that again. And I won't. Like, they wanted this little, like, and I get it from programming. You want something different every time, right? And I don't want to program a festival. Fuck, that is disgusting. Like, I would just find it so overwhelming. I don't want to do it. But there has to be better ways to do this. So what my artistic value and my artistic and cultural output was then negated, shoved off to the side, and told that wasn't worth it. Now, Emily and I have just had this recently again. Email comes in. They want me to do this festival again with Emily. I said, yeah, talk to our booking agent, because Emily and I share the same booking agent and manager. Talk to them. Off they go, talk to them. They come back and they email me back, not them, to say, oh, Emily's not available. Do you think you can come down here? Now, I'm not going to name the mob, and put on your other show, your More Blacks, More Dogs, More Irish show, and then you could, like, connect in with the insert name of mob here. And I just was like, what? Like, yes, I can do that show, but you need to connect in with the mob there. That's your job. That's your job. That's your job as your festival. I can come down and put on that show, but I'm not doing the legwork for you. And just when this little cultural exchange doesn't work for you, just because, like, your little way in doesn't work, then you're gonna, like, ask me to come up with another fucking cultural exchange for you? No. I am my own artist in my own right, and I can come and play at your festival regardless of my connections. I have never, ever, ever, ever had this with one white artist. I've never been like, oh, can you come and play with Claire Ann Taylor? And if Claire Ann Taylor doesn't play, well then I'm cutting your fee, or I'm going to ask you to find another white redhead to play with. That's basically what I'm getting. I have so many people that reach out to me when Emily, Barca, Dobby, Auntie Delta, these connections, my friends, they're not marketable people in my business plan. They're my fucking friends, right? I have people come up to me and be like, oh, can you ask them if they could do this? Because they're coming to the white person who has proximity to this to ask, can you actually, instead of making their own fucking connections. And I'm used time and time again in that way. And it puts, like, shit in between my relationships with these people as well. Because if I suggest, hey, do you want to go do this? And these people are assholes, then I'm a fucking wanker for doing that. Do you know? This past week down in Tasmania, Lutruwita was another one of these really massive, disgusting mess ups that just makes me feel sick. And Last week, Emily was brave enough to call out some really shit stuff that happened with Pangea Festival. And I stood behind it 100%, always stand behind Emily speaking truth. Just like I'm doing this because Emily told me to, you know, she stands behind me speaking truth and I'll stand behind her every single time. She called out something that was really toxic and really shitty. The festival got very offended. She did it on her private page too. Festival got really offended and it was all happening. Me in oblivion arrives down to Lutruita to play a show. The promoter of that show, his first words to me, I'm like, hi, how are you? I'm Áine, lovely to meet you. His first words to me are, we need to talk about something. I was like, okay, something wrong with the ticket sales? Is there whatever? Listen, Pangea Festival are really offended by what happened with Emily. Can you please... maybe while you're here we can kind of sit down and all work it out together, and like, can you blah 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 blah. Anyway, I'm sitting there kind of like in shock, and I'm like, what, are they coming to the show tonight? Did you want me to talk to the festival at the show? Like, confused as fuck as to why these people are talking. This random promoter who's promoting my show should have been doing a job for me, should have been bringing in more people to my show and making me the money that it cost me $3,000 to fly down there, me and my team. He should have been doing my job. And instead he's telling me, hey, basically it boiled down to this. He wanted me as a white woman who's near Emily to shut the angry black woman up about this festival because it's disturbing their white little paradise of what they think their festival is. That's basically what he did to me. He didn't speak to me for the entire set because I stood up for Emily and I said, no, I back her 100%. I saw what happened. I read the emails. It's not okay. Artists need to speak up about this stuff. I back her. He came up to me with his laptop and asked me to be CC'd into an email with Pangea Festival to figure out a time to sit down and have a chat while I was there. While I was there doing my shows, connecting with my friend. I just want to hang out with my sis M. That's it. I just wanted to do shows and sing. He showed up for 10 minutes at our next show to set up the stuff and left. I had $600 of merch stolen at that show. He could have been on the door promoting those people to come in and not leaving this young girl just to say, oh, she's an Irish act. She's an Irish act. She's an Irish act. He could have been doing his fucking job. That lost me money. It hurt my friendship with Emily because I'm heartbroken for her, sitting there like, what the fuck is this guy at? And I'm having to have discussions and conversations with my manager, Emily, my sound engineer, and my booking agent that have nothing to do with my show, that have to do with some sick and twisted, sophisticated, fucked up way of trying to shut up a woman from speaking her truth, and a black woman at that, who's upsetting their little white paradise of what they think their festival stands for. It fucking blows my mind. So I'm not Australian enough for you for so many things. I'm not Irish enough for you. You want me to be close to your Indigenous people so that you can sophisticatedly fuck with them, and you want me to sit in some little fucking box of what it means to be Irish in your narrative in this country, and I'm done with it. Like, I'm so far done. And I know that, I'm going to get, what the comment I'm going to get is, when you all share this, because none of you are like that because you're beautiful, you're my people, right? But the comments I'm going to get? Go back to where you come from. Every time I speak up about this shit, that's what I get. Go back to where you come from. And I'm like, oh, that's very kind and Australian of you, but actually I am an Australian citizen, so technically come from here. And if I could, I would. I've tried to move home since I got to this country because I've seen a lot of this toxic shit, but you know what? I had to stay here. Came here, the global financial crisis. I'm a survivor of domestic violence. I didn't have a fucking choice for many years. When I finally got my shit together and I was about to move home, COVID happened. My dad has passed away. So much shit has blocked me from being able to move back to my country. And so I'm here. And I'm here and I'm contributing to your country in an actual beautiful and powerful way. I'm engaging and with the culture here. I'm engaging with my own culture and relearning and decolonizing and becoming exactly what I need to be for this time in space and history. I am doing the work. You want to talk about the work? I'm fucking doing it. And on stage every night, any of you who have been to my shows, you feel it. And you remember a bit of who you are. And that makes you go out into the world and do your thing. That is the healing power of music. And I am doing that. I'm here contributing to your communities, contributing to your country, contributing to the national dialogue of what the fuck it means to be Australian, because that's the problem here. You have no idea what that means. As a wider white Australian community, you have no idea what it means. You're lost. You're lost. And I am a piece of your puzzle, because 30% of you have DNA like mine. And I am this piece of 30% of your puzzles that you actually could learn from. You actually could engage in this conversation. You actually could look at the way that I've remembered who I am and therefore been able to honor the land that I walk on. You could learn from that. That is not something to smush into a box and make me play the tin whistle and get you to dance. I'm done. I'm so sad that it's taken 10 years of trying to fit into your box to just get to the end and be like, I am exhausted. I'm tired of trying to fit into that box for you. Like, it's a fucked box. And you know what? It hurts so many of my other Irish friends who I want to come and play in this country. I have applied for them for festivals, knowing that if I apply for them, I won't get the spot. But I want them to come and play here because you need their music. You need their diversity of music. You need to see that an Irish act is not one thing. No, you need to see this. You need to open up to, like, if a Japanese act is coming, what can they bring? But then what does 50 other Japanese acts that are so different to them bring to your conversation of what it means to be Australian? You know, there's so much here that could actually be moved forward. And I want to say there are 3 festivals that I can say hands down that never made me feel this way. And I actually want to, instead of calling out the ones that aren't doing it, because you know who you are. You've done it. You know when you looked at my application exactly what you said. You know that when another Irish act came in, you put our 2 applications next to each other and you said, oh, this one's traveling from Ireland this year, so let's get them because Áine's always here. You know you've done it. You know that you've looked at me and been like, oh, well, she plays a tin whistle sometimes, but she's not really. You know you've looked at me and said, she's not going to fill our Guinness tent. You know you've looked at me and said, she's going to call out my potato throwing competition. You know it. But I am going to say, Mullum Music Festival and Bellow together, they know what programming is. They booked multiple Irish acts in a year. And it wasn't because they had an Irish theme that year. They booked me, Wallace Bird and Irish Maithen on the same bill. You could say that the 3 of us are very similar because we're solo Irish women playing music, but our music is so different. And that's exactly what they saw. They booked good music. And all 3 of us are good fucking music. And that's it. Nanup Music Festival. Never tokenistic. She's beautiful. She just books good music. And Signet Folk Festival, although a folk festival, and I have an issue with all of them at the moment, she booked again. She just booked Irish acts. Every fucking time I've played there, there's been more than me, and it's not been tokenistic. I felt she wanted me as a musician and me as my connection and who I am. So I'm saying this because I tried to smush this into an open letter and it didn't work. You know, it there's too much complexity in this, and I don't want any words that I put out there to be misconstrued in a way that comes back at me being a whinger about not being booked for a specific festival. I don't care. I deserve, after the years and the musicianship and everything, I deserve to have an equal chance. That's it. I'm not saying I deserve to have a career, or I deserve to make millions, or I deserve to be an ARIA nominated act. I'm not saying that. I deserve to have an equal opportunity to play music when this is my home as well. I deserve that. And that's not what I'm getting. And I don't know how to express that in a way that can spread. I know myself, it means I'm not going to be playing at lots of the usual places that you all have seen me play at over the years, and maybe you found me at, because I refuse to be part of that. And maybe it means that I'm only going to do my own shows for a while until I'm seen for what I am. But that's going to take venues, promoters, radio, ARIA people, publicists. It's going to take you all looking at this blind spot. You've had to look at that blind spot a bit in the past 2 years and be like, oh shit, we don't have enough Indigenous people on our lineup. And what's happening now is not very beautifully healthy for that, because it is feeling like tokenism to a lot of these artists. And I'm not going to, Emily, if you want to hop on here, just send me that thing that says that. I'm not going to speak for you, but you've opened up a little bit of that blind spot to oh shit, we've kind of ignored this whole thing for a while. Now I'm asking you to open up a blind spot about what is Australian music. What is it? What is it? Because you claim to be a multicultural, diverse country. You claim to take in, especially white-skinned immigrants with no fucking problem. But are you actually giving us the equal opportunities? I'm going to let my sis M come on here. I think. How do I do it?
Hello.
Yeah.
Go off, my sister. Boom, boom. Sorry, I'm outside. I'm stuck in isolation with my little brother because he's got fucking COVID. Look, yeah. No, it's great. I love this whole conversation, sis. It's so fucking important, eh?
Yeah, yes. After the last few days, I can't keep it in anymore. I can't keep shoving down.
Yeah, good on you, sis.
And I'm so tired of not having at least, it's hard enough. We're mamas. I'm a woman and I'm 40. I'm up against it because I'm not the sex symbol that the music industry wants to sell. So I'm already up against it with them. Why do I have to be up against it when actually I have a little bit of medicine that could actually fucking help here, And my culture and my identity as Irish is actually the thing that should be a beauty to add to it, but it's the thing that is pushing me back down into this tiny little box of what they want me to be.
Yeah. And that's it. Just these little boxes itself, they're so suffocating. What you were saying, what happened in Lucha the other night at your gig, that was actually terrifying because I felt unsafe to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And you're so right. This is just embarrassing behavior on behalf of the Australian music industry. I feel like we're always continuously getting put into these boxes, or their idea or their perspective of their view of our music has some sort of cultural relevance because they have none. And it's I can experience this for just a quick second and appreciate it because I'm a part of this. And it's you're actually part of the problem.
That's it.
You're not a part of this story. You're a part of the opposite. You're a part of the problem. So this is creating more damage mentally. This is creating damage for those mob who are coming into the space, young ones as well who are coming in the space, those globally, across, abroad. They laugh at our industry.
Mm.
Like, I know so many people who globally who look at our music industry and are like, that's fucked.
Yeah.
Like, that is fucked. And it's like,
Fucked.
how can we unfuck it? We've been trying so hard these last
Oh,
couple of years. Our presence, our existence. It's like that even in itself is terrifying to them, because if we speak on shit, we're the bad cunts. You know what I mean? We're the
yeah.
bad ones. And it's like, oh, okay then. I'm
Even
just
just
telling the truth.
releasing We Call You Now, you know, the literally I got for that. And the amount of, I've had people say I cannot play that song on their lineup. Like, I've actually been censored, like censored. And this happened in the past few months. I was told I can't, if I'm going to play their venue, I can't swear in the two songs that have swearing. And I'm like, that's We Call You Now and Born to Do This. One calls out the patriarchy, one calls out racism. And I can fucking swear about that if I want to. And that's my art. And if you're booking me, you can't actually then tell me I can't fucking say the things that I need to say.
Wow.
And it's so dangerous. And they're the type of conversations that get so, like, this conversation, I'm gonna cop it just like you copped it when you spoke out about it. And but I'm actually so exhausted of trying to like fit into the box. And I see loads of my contemporaries, whether they're Irish or have some Irish heritage, and they're playing into the narrative because they know that they need to earn money here, and they can't do it in an authentic way because Australia doesn't allow them to as Irish people. So
No.
they sell out their culture and hurt their soul. And I've got to put food on the table for my kids as well. It's just like my integrity. I can't, like, I would be physically sick if I had to do something like that. And anytime I've had to, like those St. Patrick's Day things, they've taken a toll on my health for years after, like a toll on my mental health. And I'm so tired of having to even like why in 2022 are we being made to sell Guinness in tents and stand up for potato throwing competitions? Like, why?
Embarrassing. It's so embarrassing.
Like, and
It's
why
so
are
embarrassing.
we buying tickets for this? Like, it's back on the consumer as well. Like, I can sit here and complain about a few festival directors, but they're one person, right? It's back on the consumer as well to be like, why am I going into the Guinness tent and getting drunk on Irish music when these lads are wearing kilts, which are fucking Scottish to begin with? Why? Why am I doing that? Why am I buying tickets to a potato throwing competition that has like such a shallow version of what Irish heritage is? It's because the colony hasn't taught you what your actual culture is. And I don't blame you, but now I'm telling you, don't partake in it. You have a really deep and beautiful pagan culture that was there far before the leprechaun. And the leprechauns were made up by the American movie industry. That is not us. That is the American movie industry that has sold this across the world. And the same with these Guinness tents at all these festivals. Who is that? Guinness is an English-owned company. Who is profiting off this? You are not giving that money back to Irish tradition and Irish culture and Irish money. Like the Guinness family, look them up. Like, there's a long history of so much of this stuff that consumers partake in because they don't know. And if you have Irish heritage and you think that going to a festival dressed up as a leprechaun and drinking green beer is partaking in your culture, I am so sad for you. I'm so
Straight facts, sis. Straight facts. And you know, like the obvious tokenism that comes into play with this is like it's so in your face. And the fact that audience, like people are buying tickets to these festivals and participating in these things, it really says a lot. It really fucking says a lot about you. if you are doing these, if you are being involved and actively participating, that is violent.
Like,
You
I'm
are being
actually,
violent.
you know what? It's green face. It's kind of like a weird version of blackface. It's like they
It's really bad. I don't understand. Like, and I only am aware of all the stuff because I've been to your country. I've sat down with auntie. I've sat down with, you know, uncle. I've had the honor of sitting down with you, and when where we went, I was actually shocked. I was so shocked by the conversations that were happening. And that was when Brexit was. Oh, is it Brexit?
yeah, right. Yeah.
That was when that was happening, and so it was like, shit, you fellas are angry too. It's like,
Yeah.
we're
Yes.
angry too. And it's like, what a reflection.
Yeah.
And I think what I love about We Call You Now is that you are calling it out, sis. You are calling out what is going on in this country and those who are actively participating in this violence. Because that's what it's what it is. It's violence. And being silenced against this is violent as well. So standing by and watching your friends and allowing your family to talk about this and participate in these experiences, that's damaging. Like, if you have, and I always say this, like, if you're mob like as well, like, if you have that embedded in your DNA, in your ancestry, imagine how your ancestors feel. Imagine how betrayed they're feeling
Boom.
seeing you do this. And we always preach about, I don't know, like, I know there's a lot of hippies, like the whole like white hippie like the whole that community where it's like the spiritual, this the essence of forgiveness, the essence of love. And it's like, you are going against that 110%. You're resisting against that. Like, that's not true. Like, you're not living in your truth because you're denying the very existence of your fucking truth. Like, how can you, it just baffles me how people do not understand this. And
I
how
think
we have to
like
continuously talk about it and call it out. It's like, we're tired of that.
I think it's because it's a white culture, like Irish is a white culture, that it's kind of okay. They see to do this sort of thing because I kind of feel like if this was like, you know, you wouldn't get away with dressing up as Pocahontas as a white person and going out and doing something ridiculous anymore. You get called out for that shit, you know? You wouldn't get away with tokenizing an Asian culture at this stage in our 2022. Like, you would get called out. Yeah, people still do it and they're fucked, right? But you would get called out for it. I just find it pretty like weird that with Irish culture and probably Scottish and Welsh and some other like Nordic cultures or any, it's kind of like totally accepted this relationship to alcohol, this relationship to kind of putting us down as a bit of a joke and sort of like, you know, like weird, like these Irish jokes that you have in this country are fucking so toxically disgusting. The way that, you know, like even your prime minister, I mean, I know he was a fuckwit, Scott Morrison, but the way that he was on a press conference a year ago and it was in a brewery and there was an Irish girl working there and he was like, oh, you know, of course there's an Irish girl in a brewery. This sort of stuff is like insidiously toxic. Like, and it hurt, like as Emma's saying there before, like we as a country turn to alcohol because of trauma. And then it's like celebrated all over the world. Like we are, like everyone's proud to throw back another drink. Like, and when I go, like, I don't drink, and when I go to venues and people are like, oh, you're Irish and you don't drink, I'm like, I don't partake in that part of my culture. I fucking don't, because it's not a part of my culture. That is not my culture. I don't drink because I don't drink because I don't want to dishonor the ancestry that my trauma, like it's a very deep conscious decision about why I don't drink. I'm not an alcoholic, but there has been alcohol in my family. There's been alcoholism in my family. It has deeply disturbed the lines of my family. And I'm not going to partake in that and continue on a narrative that makes you feel better about drinking because you've got 10% Irish DNA. Like, what the fuck? What other culture would that even fly with and not get called out? Like what other? Well, like I can't think of another culture that actually wouldn't just get like called out for doing, you know?
I just there's a couple of good mob that have just joined on this conversation, on this live, and I just want to, if you just want to give everyone a quick update of what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Sis, and...
Well, if you don't know me, it's Misha Áine Tyrrell. My name's Áine Tyrrell, and I'm an Irish woman, but I've been living here a decade playing music in so-called Australia. And after I have a big meeting with a planning meeting with my team at the moment, and after years and years and years of this stuff, I've just decided enough is enough. And the feedback I'm getting from festivals, what promoters, what venues, what radio, it's basically a collective voice of trying to fit me into this box of being an Irish act. And if they already have one Irish act coming, I don't get booked. If they have a year worth of bookings to fill, they only want me on St. Patrick's Day. If they think that they can get someone like Emily or Barca or another Indigenous act and make it out to be this little cultural exchange with a white person who has white culture that kind of looks like them, it makes them feel a little bit better, and so then they might book me. But then if one of these artists can't do it, they just want to replace it in with another Indigenous act, and it's icky. It's the shit that has happened in my 10 years of living here is disgusting. And I'll tell you, I said 3 festivals that have made me feel welcome, but I'll tell you, the spaces and places that I've ever consistently always felt welcome are Indigenous spaces. That is who has welcomed me in this country. That is who has brought me on their tours and lineups and had conversations and celebrated my music and shared my music and seen me for who I am. It's mob. It's never been white Australia. Mob. When I started playing and being asked to be part of lineups with different mob, again, it was tokenism. My first show, it was for a NAIDOC week, and I got asked to play, and I was like, you know, I'm not Indigenous. And they were like, no, we think it'd be real nice. And it was me and Uramal, and it was an incredible show. And it really was a beautiful moment, and that didn't feel like icky. It felt like a beautiful exchange, a moment. But as I've traveled on, and as I continue to travel on, I get smushed further and further and further and further into this box. And then when I say anything hard, I'm told to go home. When I try to call out this shit, I'm told to go back to Ireland. And I've been told to change my name, to stop speaking with an accent. Fucking like, how can I do that? Like what? Like you want me to say water? I don't know. Like what? Like I've been told I've been likened to IRA car bombers when I get on stage. I've been given millions of misspellings and mispronunciations and offensive ways of talking about me, my culture, my name, my language. I've been told what I can and can't play. I've been told who I can and can't collaborate with whatever fits in with that tokenistic culture. So I'm basically here just saying like, and I've also been put in horrible positions of making Indigenous friends. I don't see them as like an artist like that I'm trying to connect with. These are friends because of their toxic view of my culture. It's then put people like Emily, Barca, Dobby, Uramal in unsafe spaces. And they use me and my whiteness to do that. And it's gross. It's just
so gross.
And I don't want to partake in any of those spaces anymore. I'm basically not playing at a lot of the places and festivals. And I'm not here to call out every single one of them, because I really feel, apart from those 3 that I mentioned earlier, it's across the board. It has been done to me by all of your favorite festivals, all of your one. And you as consumers and we as a community need to find better ways to to do this. I mean, Emily and I were talking about this at the weekend. Like, we just don't want to play at these festivals and prop up their lineup with an Indigenous act, or they can put Ireland and bracket next to mine, and then they feel good about themselves that they've booked a diverse show. But I know myself that 50 other Irish acts that don't get a look in because I have, and there's one spot for us, and there's 50 spots for everyone else, and there's 2 spots for Indigenous people now because we've got a little bit woke. There used to only be one. Woke.
I mean, one, or there's always the support act has got to be Indigenous amongst all these white artists.
Yeah, so I want to see 2 spots open up for Irish people, and then we've hit equality.
Oh gosh. I think, thank you, sis. Thanks for holding space for this conversation. And if anyone wants to, share, because I think you're going to post this,
Yeah, I will. And actually, I want this to share, and I want it to spread. And the reason I'm doing it this way, I was saying earlier, I tried to do an open letter, and it just like, there's too much complexity in this and could be taken out of context. And we always get just whinging if that happens. I'm not here whinging. I'm in my power. I am proud of my music. I'm proud of my connection. And I'm not reaching any further level in my music because I'm actually being pushed down and blocked from doing it. And I just want an equal shot. That's it. I just want equal. I want the same opportunities as everybody else. And this is exactly what Emily was speaking about last week. She wants an equal shot at that bill. She wants the same opportunities as everybody else. She doesn't want to be tokenized into whatever version. And there was no easy way to put that in a letter. And I just feel like this is a conversation that's a blind spot. And I want to have the conversation. I would like, I've had this conversation. I actually wrote a letter to New South Wales, Create New South Wales, because this is across the board. Like, this is not just like a festival that I'm calling out. I'm saying this is your funding bodies. I have not been funded in this country for a project because I'm not seen as Australian. I have applied just like all your other artists at my level, and I do not get funded. Apart from when I was living in Melbourne, and the Melbourne music scene is so beautiful and wholesome. And years ago, I got a grant from Create Victoria. I have not been funded here, and I have been told a million times when I click the culturally diverse box, because I am. I sing in language. I have a culture. I am culturally diverse. I've been told that Irish culture is not seen as a culture by these funding bodies because we are put in with the first fucking fleet. I've been told this. We didn't come here in that story. That is not the story of how Irish people got here. Yes, in further generations, many of us have come here for reasons of economic growth, but that is because our country is still fucking dealing with the trauma of colonization, and our government cannot get their shit together. That's why we've emigrated. We are still a traumatized country who is still healing from 800 years of colonization. And in that, we've only freed 26 of our counties. There are 32 counties in Ireland. This is an ongoing conversation. We are not healed. We are not healed. And so our youth still emigrate, and that's why I'm here. And your funding bodies won't tick me. They won't tick me as a box. I do not get funded here. So everything I do is off my own back. Build it and they will come has been my motto. But when I am constantly being like, literally my fees slashed, my opportunities to play, like as a story I told earlier, I gave them 22 months of the year to play, and they only want me to play on St. Patrick's Day. Like, that affects my equality to be able to do my fucking job, do you know? And I'm so lucky, Emily, you and our team and the other artists we work with as well. You've seen me for that. you've seen me for that. And even though I haven't got any of the accolades or any of the funding or any of the big festival spots or any, you've all seen me for that, and you all work with me for that, and you keep me strong and you keep me resilient against this, because like it's heartbreaking. It's hard, and my heart breaks even further actually for the immigrant minorities that don't have white skin, because I'm actually palatable. Like, what about all these other cultures that you celebrate in this country? I get through because you want Guinness and you want white skin, and so I have a chance. But what about all these other cultures that are not even getting a look in at what your identity of being Australian is? I don't know, but I love you, Em, and I can't thank you enough. And it's just a blind spot that I think I'm actually no longer going to partake in festivals, venues, promoters, publicists, teams, artists, anything that makes me feel that way. I'm going to run a million miles, and it means you won't see me at the usual spaces for a while. And until I feel that is being honored, like
100%, sis. Like, you've got to feel uncomfortable to grow. You know what I mean? Like, you've got to feel uncomfortable. And I guess it's not even that. Like, I've known you for a couple of years now, and, you know, we've been through quite a lot together, and I've seen you just 100% stand by whatever we as mob have to say in solidarity, and use your space to talk about what's fucked and what's going on in this country. And so I just think that, you know, we've got to hold space for the truth.
And I think as audiences as well, it's up to you to what you buy tickets to as well. You know, what lineups you look at, what culture is there a world stage where Indigenous mob are being shoved on? Fucking don't spend your money there. Do you know, is there tokenistic cultural shit going on? Have they not connected in, like Em was talking with? Have they not connected in with the local Indigenous mob of that place and have artists from that place? Don't spend your money there, because it is not a cultural event.
Yeah, it's not. It's disrespectful.
So this goes every layer. Your funding bodies, you guys need to sit down and have a think about what the Australian identity is and what boxes you're having to fit and not letting us fit into. Do you know? Like, think about what you're funding. Think about stories that you are missing. Like, so many stories are missing in this country because of that. So many people are not seeing themselves reflected in so many spaces. This isn't just music. Like, turn your TV on or turn whatever, like Q&A, fucking whatever. Like, there's so many versions of this that are everywhere. What is your version of Australian identity? And this is a powerful question for 2023 as we move forward. Like, if nothing, the years of COVID, sitting in our rooms thinking about this shit, trying to do better, decolonizing, thinking. Now this is the time. If a young boy is losing his life in this country, you know, this is the time. If not now, when? You know, these conversations, if not now, when? And that's why I'm here to have this yarn. And I love yous, and I'm gonna cruise as well, as Emily says. Please share, because if not now, when? This is the time for it. I don't even know how to share this, but I'm gonna figure it out. Jesus, if I lose it, that's a problem. Someone tell me what I do. Actually, do I press the X and then there'll be a save button? Because now I'm terrified. Somebody who's hip with these these, and thank you for listening to this, even if you listen for 2 minutes or 1 or whatever. Yeah, thank you for letting me express myself and be an angry white woman. Thanks for being an angry Irish white woman. I had shit to say, and this was the only way to get that through. So
Much love, much respect. And I'll do what Emily said there. Thank you. Mwah.